I was thinking about this today and thinking this is such an iconic role. I mean, Romeo and Juliet, everybody's heard of it,
Yeah.
whatever. When you knew you were going to play Romeo, did you do any special preparation or
What
any
day did you
thought
say
about
this was?
what it
Fourth
means
or
to you?
Well, the first thing I did was I reread Shakespeare's Romeo and Juliet, which is really, really important for me just to get the background story, of course, where it all comes from, the source. And I watched a lot of young lovers on the streets of New York, on the streets of London, and really get to see what young love was or is, which is really, really, it's the core.
Yeah.
And I do a lot of people watching. I think it's one of the skills that's so important.
It is a big
in
thing.
an act. It
There's
is.
no question about that. And I mean, you're very equal to it. But, in terms of that, do you try to pace the roles that you do? And do you
Any
have
love
like
story, it always starts very light and it always ends slightly dark. And the key is really, it's all about the pacing. And it's one of the things that it's always important to me. I always hear my teachers always saying, remember to pace this role. And French opera, and this is a perfect example of French opera because it's long. But it's also just like dating. It's like when you first date someone, on the first date, you just don't want to give away too much because they might run away,
Juliet kind of didn't follow that rule.
No, she was smitten
Yeah.
right from the very
Well,
beginning.
who could help it, right?
Yeah, but it's a great challenge pacing it not only vocally but also acting wise, and just kind of to see the arc of the character of Romeo,
Yeah.
how he grows into from a boy really to a man, and to see him come full circle, it's really a challenge for me, vocally and also as an
Right.
actor.
Well, there's a lot of loyalty questions in it as well. I mean, family loyalty, of course, to Mercutio in the horrible street scene situation.
Yes.
And then the divided loyalty that has to come back to her. So it's
It's a real triangle. It's a real, and I really feel that there's a sense of, even in the overture, I heard it today when we were staging the prologue. I heard in the music that Gounod is a master at predicting the future right from the very beginning, and I feel how come the deep emotions of Romeo. He's not just a young guy who's carefree. I mean, he's a real passionate guy, and you really feel that in the music really early on, and I can't help but to be affected
well,
by
I think
it.
wrote that. I mean, the dichotomy, the kind of music that Romeo gets versus what Mercutio gets, certainly.
Yeah.
The minute Romeo starts to sing, it goes to a whole philosophical world. Don't you think?
Yeah, it's almost like he has lived so much longer than than 15 years. It's kind of at 15 years old I wasn't that deep in terms of in terms of my thoughts of the world, in terms of my thoughts of love. It's because I'm young and I feel this way too. I have a very strong way of doing things or a sense of who I am, and I think Romeo does too. And when he says something in terms of his beliefs, he really means it.
Yes.
In terms of when he says, I really love Juliet, it's not, I'm not in love with Rosaline, he's really sincere. He knows that she's the one for him.
She's it. Yeah. No more of that fooling around and flirtation.
Yeah.
This is the big step.
And I definitely can relate to that personally, because I'm that way, very much. Sure.
So it's really, we were just talking about the fact that Romeo and Juliet is
very-
iconic and
yeah,
incredible and
not-
everybody knows it.
You kinda
What's
speak
your
kind of
take on
crazy.
it? Do you have any special preparation or thoughts?
Well, I was something that struck me, and I believe it was a couple of days ago. I was doing research on it, and someone said, I don't remember the source, saying that they don't know why they fell in love. Maybe it was just physical attraction, but Noah was saying something about being young and being really clear of who you are and your decisions being strong.
Right.
But we all know that she's really, really strong. That definition of both of them, even at that early age, 13 for her, makes that attraction real, not only physical. No, I believe they are really true into each other.
So you think mentally and emotionally?
Oh yeah,
there's a
totally.
trigger
They are
there.
really strong. I don't think it would work with people who were more childish
Right.
or immature in a
Right.
way.
So they recognize a kindred.
Yeah, something that's not even visible, but in their chemistry,
Right.
it just gets them. And that's why it's so powerful and so passionate.
Well, when you're preparing a role, how long do you like to have with the music before you go into rehearsals?
I would love months. I would love months just to, read the libretto, read all the sources, but also just listen to the music, knowing everything that you're saying, but just let the music speak to your instincts. Let the music bring you to tears if it has to. Let the music bring you to laughter if it brings you to that. But the great thing about opera is that you have text, but you have music. And music gives you movement, and music gives you impulses. Text gives you that, but music is just the best help. But I always got it in my iPod.
Yes.
And when I was in my commute in the train, Romeo Juliette was always there.
Right.
Yeah, and the story is so timeless,
Exactly.
that we can relate to. Oh wow, Gounod put this into this text, in this context of the
So
play.
what's next for you?
Okay, after this I go to City Opera. I cover the Spina with them. After that I go home for like 3 weeks, and then I go to Grand Rapids and I do a musetta with them.
What great roles.
Yeah.
So what's a dream role?
You know what? I was thinking about that yesterday. One of my colleagues was singing something from Nozze, and that's an opera that I've done twice, and I just have so much fun doing it.
It's tremendous.
Yeah, so, I mean, I love Norina, I have done it a couple of times, but Susanna has some fire in her
Yes.
that I just love it because it's fun. It's
Yeah.
pure fun all the time. This is the first strategy I do, which is a great.
Wow. Wow. Well, that's a good balance then. So that you're experiencing emotionally both directions.
Yeah,
So that'll make your comedy richer too.
I believe. For me, comedy, is you have to play it. It's a luxury, I believe, to do a role. Like the spin I have done twice, so this would be, even though I'm covering it, it gives me a chance to sit and hear someone else do it as a different perspective from
Well, I
mine.
think that's the gift for the audience too. We see things over and over and over again, and it stays ever fresh because the stories are so amazing, but there's a million ways to be personal
Totally,
with it.
totally.
Yeah.
It's all about choices.
Yeah.